Ein, an ugly loser, had lived a life of ridicule and bullying for being born with a useless appraisal skill, and he was so depressed that he jumped into an abyss hoping to end his suffering. This was as a result of his last ordeal in the dungeon with his adventuring party. Few hours back, Zoid, the swordsman, rushed towards a giant rat, ready to strike. Meanwhile, Jolene, the mage with the massive plot, was slowly cooking up a spell while Ein watched from a distance, realizing how useless he was. Later, Zoid struck the giant rat with a cleaving slash, which made a cut on it. He told Jolene to speed things up, as he was getting worried. Just then, she finished her incantations and blitzed the rat with a fireball. The victory made Zoid and Jolene happy, so they immediately called Trash Picker to do his job. While he was still carrying their luggage, Ein told them his name wasn't Trash Picker, and just then, he went ahead to trip, causing Zoid to be fed up with his lame ass. However, Jolene told him to go easy on Ein since he was a natural-born loser. But Ein simply stood up, apologized for his recklessness, and went over to appraise the giant rat. At birth, the goddess of light granted them a job, while the goddess of darkness granted them a skill. By training skills, one could hone massive abilities, but jobs were passed down through generations. The jobs were divided into 3 tiers. The rare classes consisted of wealthy merchants and military strategists. The high common classes consisted of swordsmen, mages, while the low common classes consisted of trash like Ein. Ein inherited his job from his parents, but since he lost them at a young age, he couldn't keep the family business. He decided to be an adventurer, to become the next Elon Musk. Unfortunately, reality gave him backshots. Ein used his appraise and was able to tell that the rat was an F-rank monster. However, its teeth were D-rank. He tried to pull it out but realized he had warm spaghetti for muscles and needed to hit the gym. At that point, Zoid got tired of waiting and wanted Ein to speed things up, and when Ein asked for help pulling out the tooth, only for the shampoo prince to throw a rock at him. Ein glared at him, and Zoid kicked him in the face, as Jolene explained that he should be more grateful, since he was basically a worthless human cart. He then apologized and cleaned the blood off his face. Ein realized the world wasn't fair and decided to pull out the tooth himself, while they had fun mocking him, adding that the reason he was a party member was to avoid trash from touching his magic bag. Eventually, Jolene and Zoid headed deeper into the dungeon while lagging behind, sulking and cursing himself since he was a certified trash ventured. A while later, they went deeper into the dungeon and found a hellhound corpse. They couldn't believe their luck, and immediately Zoid told Ein to appraise the corpse. Ein told them something was off, since, according to the guild, the dungeon wasn't meant to have hellhounds. However, the greedy pig kicked him, telling him to do his job and quit blabbing like his big-lipped ex. Zoid and Jo Elena were already daydreaming about spending the money on drinks before Netflix and chill, while Oin appraised the hellhound and found out it was a B-rank monster. Just then, they found another hellhound corpse and told Ein to appraise it. Bro started tweaking, knowing something was definitely wrong. He told them that the location they were in wasn't on the map, but the blockheads couldn't care less. Ein advised them to leave the dungeon, but they were fed up with his antics. Since he didn't want to follow them, Zoid told him to leave and drop the luggage, and that he wouldn't get paid for his work. They smirked at him, knowing he wouldn't last a day without them, and truly he recalled how not even a G-ranked party would recruit him. With reality dawning on him, he clenched his fist and begged them to let him accompany them, hopefully not to their deaths. A few moments later, they randomly found a horde of hellhounds' corpses worth a fortune. Again, Ein tried to level with Zoid, noting that something incredibly powerful probably defeated the hellhounds. It was very unlikely an adventurer left their loot, but Zoid didn't want to listen. Suddenly, a pack of hellhounds appeared. At that moment, they knew they might be the protagonist's character development NPCs meant to die in the first episode. As the hellhounds prepared to feast on their freshly served idiotic adventurers, the proud duo froze in fear, knowing full well that they couldn't defeat one of the monsters even if their skills were buffed by 100. In order to escape, Zoid instantly came up with a devious idea. He told Jolene to use her paralyzing spell on Ein so they can use him as bait and escape. And of course the witch didn't hesitate, as she made Ein understand he was going to finally do something useful by becoming a meat for them. She then cast the paralysis spell that sent electricity into his body, which made him collapse. The scum duo even called on the beasts to attack Ein before ditching him together. Immediately, they started munching on him, one after the other, that the intense pain overcame the low-tier paralysis spell. He immediately picked a rock he slammed on the hound's skull, after which he tossed some fruits to distract them as he made his escape with his healthy limb. Unfortunately, the scum duo had blocked his escape part to ensure he fulfilled his mission. The other path he found led him to a bottomless cliff, which was ironic because he thought it was a better option than being eaten alive by hellhounds. Ready to kick the bucket on his own terms, he cursed the useless appraisal skill that gave him bad luck. Zoid's daily humiliations also began to hit harder, making him realize he actually lived a pathetic life. He eventually jumped down the cliff with some comforting peace as he floated down the dark void content that the world was free of one less trash. Landing at the bottom, a mysterious lady showed up and went to kiss Ein's bloody body that was supposed to be destroyed. However, when he woke up, he realized he was alive with no scratch on him. He also noticed he was sitting under a giant tree, so he appraised the water dropping only for his jaw to drop, on realizing it was a drop from the world tree. The giant tree also turned out to be the world tree which he recalled as a fairy tale. Apparently, the world tree existed a long time ago, and WSS Ablento produced mana, which humans breathe in to enable them to use magic. It supposedly withered away, but since mana WSS still circulating, many scholars wanted to pull an Isaac Newton, so they stipulated that another world tree must have existed. However, like One Piece, they wasted 1,030 episodes of their lives for nothing. While Mr. Trash rubbed the tree as thanks for saving him, some sus sounds were heard, but he thought he probably hit his head and was tweaking. He decided to relax for a bit since there were no monsters around, but he soon realized he didn't have food, so he began finding his way out. Just then, the girl who saved him appeared only to stop herself from going after him. At the exit of the floor, Ein was filled with so much determination that he picked a rock ready to ascend the dungeon. He worked for a while noticing how there were no monsters around, but this only jinxed his condition as his ear ended her relationship with his head. Just then he appraised a creepy synth holding one-eyed Batman that was S rank. The monster immediately began bleeding him slowly, but as it was about to stab him behind, it was suddenly crushed to death. This was done by a bigger monster that showed up only to immediately claw Ein's face into 3 decimal points. It began crushing him to death, to possibly juice out his bloody fluids, but before he could be devoured, the monster was slayed by a lowly, who claimed she was forced to save him. The next time Ein woke up again, he realized his wounds had been healed. This time the mystery girl was sitting in front of him, with her war stoppers and elf ears looking all obvious. Ein couldn't stop staring, since he was still a virgin. He was soon interrupted by the lowly hag Ursula, who told him to appreciate the tea Yuri made for him. Yuri handed him the cup of tea, but Ein wanted to know who they were first. Ursula took the tea and forced it down Ein's throat, which got Yuri worried, but as soon as Ein took a sip, he was happy he had her tea. Ein couldn't stop staring, and Ursula told him to keep his virgin thoughts away from her daughter. Ursula then revealed that her daughter was the reason he was still alive, and demanded he thank her, but Yuri didn't see the need. Ein then thanked her and called her by her first name, causing her to blush like a 9-year-old junior high schooler who had never been rizzed up before. When the midget dropped kick and stomped him for speaking so casually to her, Yuri tried to stop Ursula and called her mom, further shocking Ein since Ursula looked like Yuri's kid. Ursula introduced herself as the guardian of the world tree. She explained that there are 9 world trees, and the guardians ensured these trees were safe from loggers. She added that Yuri was the spirit of the world tree itself, and how she had been her protector ever since. Ein was impressed and noted her beauty to actually be on par with a spirit, but Ursula wouldn't have him pulling such lines in front of her. That's when he realized the giant monster bear plugged off his eyes, so he wondered why he could see, to which Ursula responded that they used the world tree to create an artificial spirit eye for him. At this point, Ein had to point out he was a talentless trash, but Yuri claimed that she helped him because he thanked her. The hag added that any time adventurers fall into the abyss, Yuri always saves them, however they never thank her, only tearing off the world tree's leaves and branches to be used to make healing potions. On hearing this, Ian thanked her once again, saying that his life belonged to her. Ursula wanted him to beat it, but Yuri wouldn't go with that, claiming that it was extremely dangerous for him. Ursula made her understand she couldn't stray from her too much, and since teleportation spells don't work in the dungeon, there was no hope. This made Yuri immediately tear up, so the doting mother had to improvise. She decided that it'll be best to train him so he can save his butt himself, which made him so happy that he hugged them. The hag also proclaimed she was an S-ranked, so he should give his all to honor her. A while later, they went into the dungeon and Ein asked if he was going to be put in combat immediately. Ursula told him they had to skip the basics since it would take too much time. They stopped and Ursula told him to look deep into the dungeon. Ein couldn't see past his nose and wondered what was wrong with Ursula, but Ursula only got pissed on realizing that the world tree was wasted on such a loser. She added that he had to stop thinking like a loser, and that's when he recalled how he was in the dark when he got crushed by the monster. But Yuri was now his light. That moment his eyes began to feel warm, and when he opened it, he could see clearly. Ursula then grabbed a rock and threw it at the S-rank gremlin. Ein's first training was to dodge all the gremlin's movement, but he knew that, at his level, he was still cannon fodder. Ursula told him to use his appraise to help him out, but Ein knew it was only good for intel. She insisted that it was different, using a spirit eye so. Anne tried it out, was able to use the spirit eye to appraise the monster's move, only to still get his ear sliced off. He rolled on the floor in pain and tried to stand only to be pulled down by the weight of his own stupidity again. Disappointed, Ursula put up a shield and used the droplet of the world tree to reattach his ear. She told him not to worry about kicking the bucket, since he can be healed right back, saying that he should go all out. She immediately put off the shield, and of course the gremlin came for his ears again. He used appraisal to track the movement, while keeping in mind how unfit he was to attempt matching the monster's speed. By estimating its speed, he was able to dodge a measly attack that made him so happy that he lost focus to the ear fetish monster again. Ein then continued his training, and after a week, he could dodge most of the gremlin's attack when he wasn't distracted anyways. Seeing that he could finally use his skill decently, Ursula explained that he was to now defeat the monster. Of course, Ein told her he was a trash venturer with no combat skill, but she claimed she already knew, stating that his eyes had more potential. She also added him a stick, which Yuri cut from the world tree herself as a gift for him, despite the pain she had to feel since she was one with the tree. Ursula warned him to treat it like his Excalibur, and when the gremlin showed up, he timed his stick attack accurately only to miss. Ursula claimed his strike was too slow like his brain, but still refused to help him out. He decided to simply attack where he thought the gremlin would show up, but the plan also failed like your last relationship. As he dug through his empty skull for answers, Ursula got fed up and told him his eyes could appraise the monster's trajectory as well. He then activated his super appraisal, which slowed the gremlin's movement in his mind, allowing him to home run its head. Since it was moving super fast, the damage done was so extraordinary that he one-shot the gremlin. For once, Ein had done something remarkable and was about to celebrate when Ursula made him defeat a bunch of gremlins on his own. Once he defeated the horde, she instructed him to appraise the monsters and steal their skills. Ein told her that wasn't possible, so she had to explain to the idiot that appraisal was all about reading information, and since he now had a spirit eye, he could read and understand the appraised information. He then gave it a try, and immediately the skill got into his head. He screamed in pain for a while. He then tested the gremlin's speed, which turned him into not too quick silver, as his muscles couldn't keep up. As Ursula healed him, he began toning his muscles to withstand his new powers. He did this over and over, so that after a bunch of tries, he finally mastered the ability. Feeling confident, he asked to take on his clingy ex, the Death Bear. However, Ursula told him not to get carried away. She reluctantly asked him to appraise her, but went ahead to roast his face with a fire spell. She explained that her skill allowed her to fire spells without incantations, unlike useless Jolene that ditched him. He then appraised the skill, but each time he always self-destruct. He soon found out he was having a hard time because he had low mana reserves, so Yuri became his fuel reserve that simultaneously increased his mana capacity. He kept up with his training for 2 weeks, and could now cast a variety of mid-level spells at the same time. With these skills at his disposal, they headed for a revenge match with the Death Bear. Ein was freaking nervous, and that's when Ursula praised him for his hard work before pushing him towards the beast. He tried to maintain aura, but one roar from the bear made him shoot off random spells that didn't hit. He decided to use the dust to cover his moves as he showed up behind the bear. He used his skill to slow down the beast before blasting a mid-level wind spell at it, although it wasn't enough to end the angry monster. Next, he used a barrage of so many fireballs on the death bear at once, and although he didn't think that could do the job until the big bad boss collapsed in front of him. Do you think Ein can clear the dungeon with his found abilities? Like